Welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Natasha Allen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. I know we were just connecting about this hot heat that we're experiencing
Yes.
and talking about, what it's like to be in the wellness world after leaving kind of a male-dominated corporate world. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But today is really about a couple different topics. I'm so excited to dive in with you. One, the area that seems to get a lot of us stuck is that area around self-sabotage. So we're going to dive into some self-sabotage. We're going to talk about foods that nourish the body. We're going to talk a little bit about emotional eating as well. And then mostly is how to be mindful about our eating. And I'll tell you what, girl, I used to work, I don't know if people know this, but I used to be a server and a bartender to get through college. And when I was a bartender, I only had 5 minutes. I had like a 5-minute break. And it's amazing how much you can eat in 5 minutes. Honestly, it's amazing how much you can eat in 60 seconds. But 5 minutes, you can do some damage. But so I did that job for like 4 years in college, and it's really been challenging for me. And I have this thing about efficiency that it's value driven, unfortunately. My default is I am efficient. And so mindful eating is one of the areas that I love the concept and I love the idea. And sometimes I do it, but most of the time I'm like, my husband's like, you have to stop eating standing up. You have to stop always at the counter eating.
Yes.
I don't even sit down. That is how serious it is. And so I'm really excited to be talking about that today, because I'm hoping you got some tricks up your sleeve, because I have a feeling I am not the only one who is shoving food in their face in between meetings, in between work, moving on from, and it's all healthy stuff that I'm shoving in my face. However, though, it's a shoving-like process.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about that today as well. I'm really excited about that. But what I want to do before we get into all of these juicy topics is to really have you share a little bit about yourself and kind of that defining moment where you decided enough was enough for you and decided to shift paths and to really focus on serving women at this capacity.
Oh, wow. Well, first, thank you for having me. So for me, it was interesting. I did 20 years in corporate finance, and I never had a job that I liked. Never, not one. I was always a dreamer. I always had an idea of what I could possibly do for myself in terms of going into business. But of course, I was too afraid to step out. But I was a horrible employee at the same time. So I would spend hours just drawing up plans and programs and, of businesses that I would start. And one of the first businesses that I actually started was a life coaching business. I got certified as a life coach right after I got my master's degree. And it was just like, I felt like the world opened up to me because that was it. But yeah, while I was in corporate America, I would spend so much time just figuring out how I could best help people and what I could do from a business standpoint. And it just got to the point where there was so much unrest. It was painful to go to work every day. It would hurt my poor little soul just to wake up and go build someone else's dreams. And my dreams were just sitting on the shelf of my mind. And there was one particular day at this point, this was a few years ago, I was a certified life coach, I was certified fitness nutritionist, and I was certified as a personal trainer. And my manager at the time, she actually sent me an instant message way back then. She sent me an instant message of a company where you traveled and you taught fitness. And it was just like everything inside of me exploded. And I was just like, you know what? That's it. That is what I'm supposed to be doing. And maybe 9 months after that, I left my corporate job. I actually went full-time into fitness. I did that for 9 months, and then I left that because, again, it was just this burning desire inside of me to really just chart my own path. And so now I absolutely love what I do. I'm a traveling fitness professional, and I coach women who struggle with emotional eating and weight loss. But it took 20 years in corporate finance and hating every job that I had, and going into fitness, but still never really feeling like it was my own. And so now I love everything about what I do. I love waking up in the morning. I love working with my ladies, but it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey.
I want to dive into the journey just a tiny bit, because I know that there are women listening to this. So often this podcast is about hormones and health, but always there's a lot of us out there who are in a job that we're not feeling. We have a dream or desire to really go in a different direction, and there's something keeping us from it. And so I'd love for you to dive into a couple things. I know we're getting into self-sabotage, right? And so 20 years of not loving what you want, you start to think about like, how am I sabotaging myself right now? So love to hear a little bit about kind of, was there aha moments for you where there was beliefs or there was limiting beliefs that were holding on to you, or there was fear that maybe there was going to be failure in it as well? And as you know now, I'm sure that there's always failure. I feel like you're always failing forward. In the business that you're in today, in the career that you've created. We learned so much from those little moments. I always go into anything new knowing I'm going to fall flat on my face first, and then we'll just figure it out on the other side. The other thing I want to know is, how were you able to transition as well? So were you still working in the corporate world for a little bit as you were transitioning? So did you have a day job and then you had a night job? I'm curious a little bit about how were the logistics for you, especially towards the end where you decided to make that leap of faith?
Okay, so wow. My biggest thing was I never felt good enough, right? So I never felt like I was good enough to really chart out on my own and really believe that I had what it took to actually start my own business. So, it was funny because I always thought that I was a very confident person, but, above my head, what I was actually broadcasting was that I wasn't good enough. So I always felt like I wasn't good enough or it would fail. Now, this, my current business, I think it's my fourth business. I've had 3 that failed. But again, to your point, I failed forward. My first business, I was a full-time life coach. I loved everything about that. And speaking about not feeling like you're not good enough, after I got certified as a life coach, that actually is what helped me break out of that mental and emotional cycle of not feeling good enough. Because now it's like it was one of those programs that just kind of, it almost like broke me down in a gentle way, but built me back up.
Right. So you had to do your own life coaching first.
Exactly. And once I started, I was amazed at the level of confidence that I got from it. I was amazed at how I could walk in a room and, before it would be like, why is this person staring at me? Why are they staring at me? And then it's like, it changed. It completely changed after I got certified and started the first business, because it became, I'm confident. I'm big. There was so much self-assurance. There was no more not feeling good enough, because I knew I really start to learn who I was and really get into a rhythm and flow of who I was becoming as well. So feeling not good enough, that almost sabotaged everything that I could have built from that point forward. But, as we know, your life is full of lessons, full of failures, successes, failures, and successes. And I just continue to fail my way forward. It's something didn't work. Okay, let's figure out what will work, and I have this thing where I always ask myself, how can I? So when something doesn't work, how can I do this? So when I was in corporate, one of the biggest things was, how can I start my own business and really make money? That was my biggest thing.
I love it.
I was so afraid because I was married to my paychecks. I'm not going to leave this money. This is really good money.
Job security is no joke.
Exactly. You will be bound to it. And I was so bound to the paycheck. And I got to the point where I kept asking myself, how can I make more money? how can I make more money outside of what I'm doing? So then I would do little things. I would coach people on the side, I would do little things like that, or I would, do like a little part-time personal training. I would find little things that I could do that would actually build my confidence in the area that I'm in now. So I kept my corporate job for a while. And then it got to the point, like I said, there was so much unrest within me, a lot of sleepless nights. And I can even remember the week that I was going, no, I can remember the 2 months before I knew I was going to quit. I think I averaged maybe 3 hours of sleep those nights for 2 months. It was very nerve-wracking. It was so nerve-wracking. But the day that I made the decision to just break it off and honor what I knew that I had inside of me, everything changed. Everything changed. And I remember giving my letter of resignation. And 2 days later, I got a notification that someone had purchased one of my programs. And then I got a message from 2 ladies who wanted to discuss my program. And I'm like, okay, I made the right decision. I made the right decision. But it took a while. I would literally work my full-time job, and then in the evenings for about 4 or 5 hours, do something in the health and wellness realm.
That makes so much sense. A question that I love to ask myself too, I love the how can I, is who do I need to become? Who do I need to become to step into that? And that really shifts so much about, I do a lot of journaling around that. Is anytime I'm ready to step into something, or I'm feeling that that energy, right? There's this energy that's like, it's time to upgrade or to step up. And it's always that question of, who do I need to become to step into that? And so just wanted to share that question with you really quickly.
That one down.
Yeah. Well, I love that you dived in a little deeper into that for me and for all of us. Let's get a little bit into self-sabotage for the ladies and the women that you're taking care of. There's a lot of self-sabotage that we see, especially in food, right? Emotional eating is, I say emotional eating is definitely a spectrum. I think that every one of us have participated in emotional eating. Goodness knows, how we were raised, most of us.
Yes.
You're treated when you do something great or when you have a bad day. I remember my mom would have my mom was a single mom. It was my mom, my sister, and I. And my mom would have a really bad day at work, and she's like, we're going to go get some ice cream to go deal with this bad day that I just had. And we're like, heck yeah, let's go. Any day is a good day for ice cream, Mom. I'm sorry that you had a bad day, but hook a sister up.
Yes.
So those little subconscious or conscious moments growing up. Yep. And then, there's a lot of stress that we're dealing with. We're dealing with a lot of it right this moment. There's a lot of unknowns and uncertainty right now. I mean, so many parents at the moment and moms are trying to figure out what to do with their kids and schooling, and then what's going to happen in the wintertime. And so we just think about this whole year of 2020 of so much uncertainty and fear. And we know that people have been home. I've seen it all over Instagram. People are cooking and baking stuff that I'm like, whoa. And here's the thing is, now that we're home too, and I'm always home personally, but I know that people aren't normally used to being home. All of a sudden that refrigerator is really close and the pantry is really close.
Yes.
And so speak to me about what are some of the things that you see regarding emotional eating? Like, what are some of the triggers for emotional eating, and what are some ways to navigate a little bit of that right now in particular?
So I think I feel like you were in my conversation yesterday. I was just talking to someone about this with COVID. It's like it has just provoked this anxiety within people. And we all have this 24-hour access to our kitchens now. And, to your point, we're doing more baking, more cooking, carry outs. But there's also like this daily confusion, like, is it Tuesday or is it Saturday? I'm not sure, right?
Yesterday, I forgot. I didn't know it was Thursday today. Alex is like, my husband's like, we have a meeting, something about tomorrow being Thursday. And I was like, wait, what? It's tomorrow? I don't believe you.
Let me ask Google.
Right? It's one big jumble. Where's my phone? Let me verify that.
Exactly. Google will always know, or Alexa will know, right? But yeah, there's this complete world of uncertainty. Like we're uncertain about our health, our immunity, all of that. So, and we want to be comforted, and most people turn to food. And again, kind of to your point is, when you think about when you were a baby, so when you cried as a baby, in all likeliness, your mother like descended from somewhere, the heavens, and gave you milk, right? So we subscribe and we associate food with nourishment and nurturing. But the problem is that we've never really truly been taught how to sit with our emotions and how to deal with our emotions. So to your point, if your mom or your grandmother or someone was having a bad day, or let's say you were having a bad day as a kid, your grandmother or your mother probably gave you a piece of chocolate or ice cream or something like that. I don't know anyone's grandma who gave them a piece of broccoli when they were sad, right? So we learn to nourish and we learn nurturing through food. And so I always tell people you have to dial into your emotions. Why are you feeling a certain way? You really have to get dialed into that inner dialogue, because those are the things that are going to really keep you from moving forward. I always ask this question, and it's, what are you saying to yourself that you're not saying out loud? Because the average person speaks about, I believe they say about 500 words a minute, but only about 150 of those words are actually verbalized. So what are you actually saying to yourself? Because you cannot win this game with emotional eating and weight loss if you have a toxic state of mind, right? And you'll never be able to outperform the way you see yourself. So it's all about really getting that mental game and that internal dialogue in check, really.
Mm-hmm. That makes so much sense. I love that question. Are there other questions too that we could be asking ourselves? Because you're absolutely right. A lot of us are not dealing with our emotions, right? And we know that inherently we do. And it's so much easier to distract ourselves or soothe ourselves with something else. And there's a lot of things. Eating is probably the number one, but there's a lot of different things that we could do. It's that glass of wine at night to unwind, is a lot of different things that people do to kind of, it could be shopping on Amazon. There's a lot of different ways that we do that. But is there a way, and I know it's that first step is that awareness. Because even I struggle with it sometimes where my emotions just, I always say it's because I'm Latina, but I know it's just because want to blame it on something. But sometimes you fly into the defensive, or you get the emotions kind of, and you don't really work through those. Are there questions to ask yourself? So a question that I always like to ask myself is this an emotion I've experienced before? And when was the first time I experienced it? Just trying to figure out, is there an origin story to this emotion that maybe I haven't addressed? Wondering if there is questions that we can be asking ourselves, and then when to know to do it. Because, when you're in the flurry, you're just going unconsciously to the refrigerator. You may not even know it's conscious. How do we break that unconscious habit? Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. So think about it this way. When you start to turn to food, what you're doing is you're really living from the neck up. So there's a huge disconnect between your emotions and any signals that your body will give you that you're genuinely hungry, right? So there's not so much a question that I would ask. I would actually suggest spending time just checking in with your body and noticing how you feel. And so when you spend a few moments just checking in with your body, you actually have to put your brain on pause. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of conscious effort, but put your brain on pause and then find out, am I really hungry? Or is there an emotion that I'm going through? Am I abandoning myself and prioritizing someone else's needs? Or am I putting myself ahead? Do I need to spend time alone? Do I need to go on a walk? You really have to take a step back, disconnect from the brain, and really find out what your inner dialogue is saying. Because when you work on truly discovering what your inner needs are, you can actually start getting those needs met without food. And then food just becomes just that, food. Nothing more, nothing less. But it takes you, taking that pause and really checking in to see what's really going on inside of you.
I love that, because that's really changing state from anxiety, changing state from stress, and then refocusing. Now, I recognize that there's going to be people there who check in and they're like, yeah, I'm not hungry, but I don't care.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
but let's just say we are consciously checking in and we're like, oh, I am definitely not hungry. I definitely don't need that. I had that moment yesterday, actually. I'm going to celebrate this just for a second. As many of my audience knows is I'm pregnant. And that's been my excuse for everything these days. I'm just, my husband's just like, oh my God, this woman. I'm like, I'm pregnant. That's been my answer to everything. And so I went and met with a friend, socially distanced with a friend at a little cafe here in San Diego. And I had a tea. But I know that this cafe makes the most delicious gluten-free vegan chocolate chip cookies. Now, I don't just bring those home, you know what I'm saying? And maybe I even chose the cafe because I knew they had these cookies. And I just felt like yesterday I was deserving of one of these cookies. But I decided I wasn't hungry on my way there. And I was going to get this little iced tea that they have. And I was like, I started imagining this cookie in my mind. I was like, oh my God, that cookie. And I got to the cafe and I just checked in again and checked in. And I was like, I like the cookie and I had a stare down and I didn't get it.
Right.
And it was this whole thing that I had to go through. But I ultimately said no, because I was like, you know what, this isn't going to serve me right now. It's not really going to serve me at the capacity that I'm looking for. And so there was a very conscious decision there. I was so proud of myself. I came home to my husband. I was like, I said no to that cookie. And I don't think he would have been able to do it. I think he would have. He's like the devil on my shoulder. He's like, you want that cookie? Eat that cookie. You know, and so that's a little, sorry, I wanted to share that little story real quick. But you know, now we do that gut check. We're like, oh, guys, I'm not hungry. What are some other options? Because clearly there's a lot of ways that we can shift the state of stress and anxiety, right? Yes. Taking a walk, a short little meditation, breath work, grabbing an essential oil. What are some of the things that you have found that your clients really love as an alternative or that you love to talk about?
Well, I would say, especially for the person that knows that they're about to emotionally eat. So one of my biggest things is more of, again, not excusing yourself, because we can become great excusers, right? We will excuse ourselves from doing a lot of things. But, you know, what I really try to impress upon everyone is that emotional eating is really just someone trying to avoid an underlying issue. And so what they're doing is they're using food as that mechanism to self-soothe, because again, we don't really take time to sit with our emotions, right? No. So trying to solve an emotional eating problem really doesn't work, because emotional eating typically isn't the problem. It's just a way of coping with the real problem. And so let's take, for example, the person that says, you know what, I'm just going to sit in front of the TV. You know, I boredom eat all the time. You know, I hear that all the time. I boredom eat all the time. Well, for someone like me, because I do this so much, it immediately tells me, and I immediately recognize that that's someone who just may be lacking a sense of fulfilling connection in their life. So maybe this person doesn't have solid social connections or friendships, or they don't have a solid relationship with their family or their partner, or they don't have a partner. So I would always say, find out what the real source of that issue is. Because sometimes, I mean, I even have it. I'm like, I'm going to eat the pizza. That's just it. And then when I do the little check-in, I'm like, you know what? Okay, what were those thoughts and feelings associated with that? And then sometimes I make a big deal out of it. And other times I'm like, no, I'm just going to have the pizza and that's it. All right. You know, so it just depends on where you're at. But sometimes you have to realize that there may be an underlying issue there, but everything is balanced, right? Sometimes you just may want the pizza or the cookie, and that's quite all right. It doesn't really necessarily mean you're having an emotional eating moment unless you know that you are actively avoiding something. So
getting to the root cause of what it is. And I know that people, I guess for me, I was taking like the you know, it's one, you address the emotional eating, then two, what's an other option? I mean, and then the three is actually getting to the root cause of the root of what's going on, which I know, you know, definitely requires a little bit more guidance in that process.
Oh yeah.
In the meantime, I'm always like, okay, I can go take a little walk, if I'm not willing to deal with my mess yet. um,
Exactly. Work out,
yeah, work out
work
a lot of
out.
different ways. Yes.
Yes.
And we can definitely use a whole different topic of overworking out, right? There's a whole different, it can be a
hmm
whole nother thing. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I know I talked a little bit at the very beginning as I introed you onto the show, is mindfully eating. And talking about, really first, why is it that we are not mindfully eating? What have you noticed trends and patterns in women in particular that really shows up?
Well, I actually recently did a search on Amazon
Mhm.
and I searched for Diet Books 2020. Okay, so there were over 20,000 books available on diet that were just written this year. And then we turn on the television, we see Oprah Winfrey with Weight Watchers. There's so much information out there, right? That it becomes information overload. So then people start second guessing what they're doing. Should I make this choice? Should I make that choice? So a lot of times people just choose not to make any decision. In fact, I actually just did a small poll with the ladies that I work with, and there are about 56% of those women said that one of their biggest things is that they self-sabotage because they just don't know what to do. So they end up doing nothing. And so a lot of that is getting back to just making small decisions, making small choices and mastering those small choices one at a time and building on that. So do one thing, do it consistently, master it, and then move on to doing something else, just one other thing, right? I think a lot of times there's so much information and we're so overwhelmed. We don't know what to do. So you know what? I know this taco's good, so just don't overwhelm yourself. There's so much out there. Just choose one thing and continue with that.
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. And what exactly, so I think most people understand kind of what mindfully eating is, but can you speak a little bit into that? So here's an example. I went to a yoga retreat a long time ago, and they had made this like a vegan, some type of muffin. And they gave us a little piece of that muffin, and we had to like figure out what the ingredients were in the muffin, like the cinnamon. Girl, this was like mindful eating on steroids. And so
Right,
then,
sounds like
so
it.
you're working this out and, trying to figure out what's in there and what's the texture and what does it feel like and how does it make you feel? And it
Oh
was like this
gosh.
10-minute. And I was like, I'm never going to do this. This is never going to happen.
No.
And I've never done it since. But that was how I was taught. That's like on the way over other side over here of mindful eating,
Yeah.
of like really, really paying attention to everything that's happening in your mouth and getting very mindful about it. And so I'm not trying to tout that kind of mindful eating. I don't know if anyone would do it. Maybe there are people out there who do, which is, you know what? I love it. If you're loving it, I love it that you're doing it. But talk to me about is it just breathing in between bites? Or is it sitting down and looking at your food? Like, what is it that we're doing here?
Yeah, it's actually just taking a step back to just enjoy the moment in the space that you're in while you're eating, right? It does, and I have to admit, I feel so hokey when I tell people, chew your food, slow down, sit down. But it incorporates all of that, not sitting in front of a television. My television is right over there. So I keep pointing over there, but not, like not sitting in front of the television while you're eating, actively just chewing, taking a moment. But we are in such a busy, overwhelmed society that it's just like to your point earlier, like I can put down some food in 5 minutes, right? So, and that's what we do. We'll either graze and go to the refrigerator and grab something, pull something out of the cabinet. So we're used to grazing now. But when you actually sit down and have a meal, enjoy the food that's in front of you. Almost act like you're on vacation at a resort. When you slow down and you're in that environment, you slow way down, you actually enjoy your meal, you read the menu. Like there's a completely different way of living when you're on vacation, right? So it's not let's go, let's go, let's go. And so we forget to take those steps back and just enjoy our meal, chew our meal, take a break, drink some water. It's just slowing everything down and really just honoring the moment that you're in. That's what I always tell my clients, just honor that moment because everything else is going to speed back up. So give yourself this time to enjoy this time and enjoy this meal.
I like the idea of imagining that you're like on vacation. I always imagine, I took us I went to Italy. And, some of our meals were like, it's like 3-hour dinner and this whole thing. And like, that is not dinner in my house. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, so funny. I'm not a grazer. Like I know exactly the amount of food, but it's quickly gone. Like I'm not getting more. I'm just like, no, this. It's on the plate and now it's gone.
That's it.
And so I love it because it's so funny when it's automatic. It's one of the areas for me that it's been the hardest to break. And so I will try to imagine like being on vacation because it is. And I do. There was the only time that I mindfully eat is going to be on vacation. And girl, ain't none of us on vacation right now. Like nobody, I mean, a couple people, but like I haven't been on vacation in so long at this point. Like, I'm like, what's vacation?
Exactly. Oh yeah.
So 2019,
I know, right? Yeah, no, I trust me. My last vacation was December 2019, but I miss it. But yeah, I mean, just taking that moment, because to your point, like, if you've ever been to Italy, like it'll be 10 o'clock at night and they'll just be sitting outside, eating dinner, having a conversation, but they're taking those moments in and they're enjoying those moments, Another thing is I tell some of my clients, so I'm 5'3", so a lot of my clients are like my height or shorter. And I'm like, put everything that you don't really need to eat in one of the tallest cabinets you have. Typically the cabinet right over the refrigerator is where I put. So you have to pull out a ladder just to go and get the food, right? So it's like, you don't want to do all the hard work. So make it harder for you to
or don't bring it in the house.
Or don't bring it in the house. But you know what? I have to say that I am one of those coaches that I try to coach my ladies on, okay, let's find out what you have in your cabinets. Okay, let's find a healthier way to incorporate those, because I'm a potato chip person, and I've had clients lose 10, 15 plus pounds with me. And like one of my clients loves M&Ms.
That's my mom.
She still gets to eat her M&Ms and she still gets to lose weight.
See, my mama, she hides them in all these different drawers.
Because in her mind, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I think she's trying to hide them from me so that I don't throw them away when I come over.
No. See, and what happens is we typically hide things from ourselves. Just put it up in a cabinet, make it hard, make it a little bit more difficult for yourself to get them, but still allow balance, allow yourself to have them, just not all day, every day.
I like that.
Yeah.
Natasha, I love this interview so much. I love all the different tips and the cues. I mean, probably the most important one here is really getting to the root cause of what is driving that emotion, kind of figuring out that. And I know that is a journey in its own right. And hopefully people can plug deeper into you to kind of learn more strategies around that. Natasha, honey, where can we find you? Where can we plug into you, my dear?
Well, I am all over social media. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. My handle is the same. It's Natasha Nashe, Natasha, and then Nashe is Nashea. So Natasha Nashe. I have a private Facebook group full of rock star ladies out there, and we talk about emotional eating, fitness, weight loss. We do fitness challenges, nutrition challenges. It's just an awesome group of ladies. And that group is on Facebook, and it's called Break Free from Emotional Eating. And then my website is emotionaleatingadvice.com. And then one last thing, currently I am competing for Miss Health and Fitness 2020. And right now I'm in the top 3.
Oh, congrats.
So yes, so if you guys can go out there, I've provided you the link. So if you guys can go out there and cast a vote for me, that would be awesome. And basically what comes with this is the cover of Muscle and Fitness Hers, and of course $20,000. But yeah.
Congratulations for being so
Thank
close.
you. I know, I'm excited about it. So we'll see. We will see.
Well, congratulations, my dear. And thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
coming on the show and sharing your
Thank
brilliance with
you.
us today, giving us a lot of food for thought. And I love how real it felt and how you made it feel very easy as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. You made me very comfortable. So thank you.
See you soon.